Oh, somebody popped in. Who just joined us?
It may have been me toggling on the recording.
Okay. All right. So thank you, everyone, for joining. So we're going to provide. I'm going to provide some introductory slides to sort of set the context for this training, and then going to hand it over to one of our developers, Mike Giebler in the VLab, who's going to provide some training, if you will, for intended for what we call R&D project owners in NOAA. So these are folks who are responsible for some sort of research and or development project that is hopefully transitioning, in the case of NCEP, to operations at some point, and in a way to solicitate their participation in this FY15 pilot project that the NOAA Research Council has endorsed. So what is the NOAA Projects Repository in the VLab? And basically there are two ways to look at it. One is it's a web interface that allows NOAA employees to investigate and compare R&D projects active in the agency to improve collaboration and so-called research to application situational awareness. So one of the things that Weather Service has been criticized about in independent reviews is that we have a lot of uncoordinated activities going on. People don't know, the left hand doesn't know what the right hand's doing, and it's just a sort of a Wild West situation. And so you get wasted resources because two people in different independent efforts are working on the same thing when they could be collaborating. So one of the ways to address this is to create a sort of centralized repository for the information on the project level that would allow people, before they began some sort of new effort, to sort of investigate what's going on, not only in Weather Service, but other parts of NOAA, to see if there's already something in play and potential collaborators that they could work with, rather than starting something from scratch. So that's an enduring need that we're trying to address in the VLab with this project repository, and I think it definitely stands on its own merits as a good thing to have. It doesn't exist, or it hasn't existed until now. The second reason the second thing that this web interface does is allow owners of R&D projects in NOAA to input their project data to this central location in compliance with a NOAA administrative order, and to help participate in what's known as FY15 Research to Applications Performance Measure Pilot. So hopefully you saw an email that went out from Dr. Spinrad and Louis Ciolini that solicited your participation or your staff's participation in this pilot project. And let me spend a couple of minutes talking about what that is. So this NOAA administrative order defines R2A, research to application, as one of three flavors. There is R2O, research to operations, which is the one that in Weather Service and in NCEP certainly we're most familiar with. There's also transition to commercial applications, or R2C, things like patents, licenses, and CRADAs. And then there's sort of a catch-all category known as R2U, or other uses, which accommodates things that take place in NOAA where some R&D is done that informs policy and regulations, resource management, and other things, but doesn't fit into either the R2O or R2C category very well. There's sort of different models that are employed for these different paths. In the R2O, you can think of this as a pass the baton sort of transition model where, say, GSD, OAR GSD develops her or the son or daughter of her, and they work closely with EMC and NCO to test this new enhancement and then transition in operations. And so it requires very explicit planning and definition of milestones to be successful. and a very close coordination. If something doesn't go right, the baton is dropped and the transition can run into problems. The tech transfer model is one that's really laid out by the legislation, federal legislation governing patents and so forth. And the R2O model is sort of undefined, where you can have sort of, like in the case of a climate assessment report, you have stakeholders who are expecting that report. What they do with it is not always clear, etc. So the why are we doing this? So you can view that NOAA has a sort of research and development ecosystem with respect to R2A, and it's comprised of employees and line offices and research labs and cooperative institutes and hundreds of operational systems and many R&D units, and all these different aspects of the ecosystem are addressing different types of transitions, and they may or may not be efficient or cost effective, but over the years this has served NOAA quite well, and a lot of the new services and products that we deliver to the public have followed this sort of nurturing in this ecosystem. But we don't have currently a good way to measure how successful this is. So the NAO that I talked about, there's been an update. And a proposed framework is one borrowed from NASA, which are the so-called technical or technology readiness levels, TRLs. And these are explicit ways of looking at technical and scientific maturity of different R&D projects. So they fall out in kind of a nice four-phase life cycle, where you have things that are less mature in the research phase, TRL 1 to 2, and then they can be developed in the technical readiness 3 to 4, and then finally demonstrated and eventually applied or brought into operations in TRL 9. So this is one way to look at what's going on corporately across NOAA, but it can also apply in individual organizations like NCEP as well. So the one way to look at this in the case of NOAA is that an effective sort of picture for what's going on in NOAA would look something like this, where you had lots of projects sort of at that basic level, TRL 1 to 2, but only a small percentage of those moved into the development phase, keeping in mind that as you go up this pyramid, it becomes more and more expensive. So there's a cost penalty for moving something up prematurely, because it does cost expensive resources. But once it got to the demonstration phase and the projects were shown to be technically mature and valid and validated, I should say, that 100% of those would be transitioned into operations or a particular application path. So this would be sort of an efficient picture for what's going on in NOAA. An ineffective and perhaps inefficient picture would be what's shown on this slide, where you have, again, a large, wide base of the pyramid, but a lot of those, a high percentage of those quickly move into development, and then a high percentage of those move into demonstration. But then there's sort of a bottleneck at the last phase, where it's only a small percentage actually are transitioned into operations. So this is very ineffective and inefficient, and it's costly because we tend to keep things operating in a demonstration mode or a quasi-operational mode indefinitely, and there's a history of projects of that nature, and they take away from resources that can be, sort of plowed back into more R&D, because they're sustaining something that really should be transitioned but can't be. So the bottom line is we don't know what this picture looks like for NOAA, and we want to find out. And the only way we can find out is to try to collect this project level data across the agency and have project owners essentially self-select what TRL levels their project is at, and provide us with that information. So that's a large exercise to do. Back in the, I'm going to say maybe longer than 6 years ago, we attempted to do something like this with just OAR and Weather Service at the behest of Mary Glacken at the time. And we did this with Excel spreadsheets. It was very painful and cumbersome, and took a lot of effort. So we've developed now a way to do this in a semi-automated way in the VLab in this projects repository, and that's what you're going to see demonstrated for in a minute. So lastly, before I hand it over for this demo, and the question you might ask is, why is it important that NCEP participate in this pilot? And here's sort of three different answers. One is that so that NCEP gets credit for the R2O transitions that it carries out. And we know that NCEP does a lot of these. And the problem is that unless we try to document these transitions somehow, we're not getting the credit that we deserve, either as an organization, Weather Service or NCEP, but NOAA even. And that's a problem, that we're doing a lot of work, but we're not getting the credit for it. Also, we want to do this, NCEP should participate because the Weather Service can contribute to this effort that NOAA leadership is very strongly behind, and Dr. Spinrad and Kathy Sullivan are working to try to obtain more funding for the agency so that we can effectively carry out even more transitions. And then lastly, but not leastly, we want to do this so that we can actually improve this function in NOAA. And the only way you can improve is by trying to measure your performance. So we would hope that you know, NCEP would be strong players in this and submit a lot of projects and be, you know, very present and visible in this repository so that we can, you know, for all the reasons that I just stated. So basically, are there any questions at this point before we move along to the sort of nuts and bolts stuff? Okay, so I'm going to stop sharing my screen and we can switch it over to Mike. John?
Yep, I've given him permission to display his screen, and he has now done so.
Mike, you there? Mike, you're muted. John, I'm not hearing Mike.
Nor am I. He shows he's connected via phone. I'll chat him a message and see if he'll respond.
So this is Ken. Perhaps I can take over the demo at this point until Mike gets his audio working.
I think that'd be a good idea, Ken.
All right.
Not muted on our ends. It must be on his.
Yeah, I'll go ahead and share my screen.
Okay. We can see it. Oops. There we go.
No, that's Mike's.
So we might do.
Oh, there he is.
We might do MDL here.
So Mike, this is Ken. We haven't been hearing you up you just became audible.
Oh, shoot. Okay.
So if you want to go ahead and start over, and if we have technical issues, then we can switch it over to me. So.
Okay. All right.
All right. Thanks.
Okay. All right. Okay. I'll back up here then. So where I started was this main page, and trying to go over some of the ways that you can navigate through here to locate existing projects that have already been entered into the projects repository. And the top section here, we have a toolbar, and in the upper right section of that, we have a search box that you can enter in some criteria. And that search box, what you put in there will search through pretty much all of these fields here, and you can type something in here and that you might be looking for, R2O projects or something like that, and hit search. And that's not going to narrow it down very much, but you can see what's left in here is all the R2O projects. The other search facility we have is a more, what we call the advanced search. And if we toggle that open, most of the different fields that show up in the grid are on this search field, so you can start narrowing things down by these different fields. So here I've narrowed it down to just NWS for the line office. You could also look at things, for example, the source organization. If you wanted to look up just those at MDL is the source organization for these projects, you can narrow that down even further. And since we're the ones that, we're the first ones to start entering information, it still is most of the data that's out there, but it has been narrowed down a little bit by doing that. You could also type in like by owner and narrow it down even more, just to give you an idea of how to narrow these things down to find some projects that are out here. Maybe you know somebody and you're just curious about what projects they have out here, and you can type it in the owner name there. And then go back here and view all, and that'll bring everything back up again. Also, to help you out, we provided a help menu item up here. We have a user's guide. I encourage you to go out and look at that if you have any questions about things. And we've broken this down into different segments on the left here. The next thing I'm going to go over is submitting new projects and how to put those into the projects repository. And we do that on this toolbar. We have an Add Projects button right here. And you just click on that, and it'll bring up into a multi-step form. It's a few steps, but most of the steps are pretty simple and easy to enter. And you can navigate through this through using the next and previous buttons at the bottom, or you can click on the different numbers up here, and that'll navigate you to the different areas as well. In the first three steps, there are a lot of required fields. You can see that this has been validated because I didn't enter anything in there. In step 3, we have several drop-down boxes here. The first one is just the NOAA line office. And these others are different organizations and for different aspects of the project. And we put a little drop-down button to the right here, which will bring up the full list of everything that we've entered in here so far. And you can see this is starting to get kind of lengthy, but if you happen to know the organization off the top of your head, you can just type that in here. It's searchable. We know MDL is one that we're working on here. And So that makes it easier to enter this kind of data. And I entered this in incorrectly. There it is. Now, when a project is research operations,
Mike, let me. This is Steve. Let me just go through this in the case of NCEP, what you might want to normally find. So, in the case for NCEP, obviously the line office would be NWS. The project owner organization would be whoever is entering this information. The project owner is the person who's responsible for the milestones and the schedule. So that could be EMC, that could be WPC, it could be any NCEP, whoever the person is. The source organization is who developed the thing, so it could be EMC or one of the other NCEP centers, or it could be like Esrel GSD. If in the case of the HER, the source organization would be Esrel GSD. The transition partner is the group like actually sort of carrying out the transition. That again could be any group in NCEP. The applying or receiving organization is probably going to be NCO. If it's something that's going to run on the supercomputer or in IDP, then they would be the receiving organization. And of course, most all of the projects would be R2O. And then Mike's going to show the target system. Again, for NCEP related things are most likely going to be either IDP, AWIPS, or the supercomputer WCOS. So go ahead, Mike.
Hey, Steve, I don't know. Are you able to hear me?
Yes, I can hear you.
This is Dave Novak. So kind of an overarching question is, how do you define a project, right? I mean, and that kind of depends on, I mean, is this a milestone? You kind of mentioned that. It probably has to be at that level, at least a milestone with resources, or... So
here's... Yeah, so the way we're attempting to look at this, Dave, is through these technical readiness levels and considering like a full transition. So say you've got the HER is operational, but you're going to do version 2.10 of the HER, and you're going to add significant new capabilities to the HER. And that will require a SPA team member setting up and doing the full-blown testing to get it up. So that would be a project in and of itself. Even though the HER is already operational, you're implementing something new. So that would be a separate project. Similarly with the blender, if we have, phase 1 of the blender would be a project, but phase 2 would be another project. That's kind of, granted there's some grayness and subjectivity, maybe a lot of subjectivity in this, but if it's something that's just like adaptive maintenance to a model that, it's really not bringing new science and technology to bear on a product or service, then you probably wouldn't consider that to be a transition and, not a project that you want to track. You would want to track here.
And another question then, is there a certain start date of when, I mean, there's things that have been transitioned. You want to know what's ongoing right now.
Yeah, right. I mean, so exactly. At this point, we're looking for things that are in play now and it will be transitioned, unless it's been very recent. So, I mean, if it's been very recent, you could go and enter it in and give it TRL9 like it's already been done. I mean, I don't think nobody's going to object to that. But the hope, Dave, is that, I mean, with time, there are going to be new things added. And as Mike's going to show here in a second, I mean, what we really would like is these project owners, when the readiness level is increased and it moves along to a higher level of maturity, that they come in here and update this. Because what we really want, what NOAA leadership wants to know is how many things get to the end zone in a given amount of time that we can take credit for. But right now, in FY15, we're just piloting this, so it's not official. So does that answer your question?
It helps. Thank you.
Yeah, I mean, part of it is, as you can see, because of the subjectivity and the nature of it, we really do need to do this pilot to get a better understanding of what are the issues that people who are trying to enter in their information encounter, what type of questions do they have, what type of judgment calls do they have to make, that sort of thing.
Okay, thanks, Steve.
Go ahead, Mike.
Okay, all right. The last item on this page then is the TRL level, or technical readiness level. We have the 1 through 9, and we put a little bit of description next to that in this drop-down box. And then on steps 4 and step 5, these are optional items, but just give you a quick idea on the step 4 transition plan. Is there a transition plan for this? If so, is there a transition date? Anticipated transition date. And you can select that date here. And then if you actually have a document that documents that transition plan, you can browse your local file system and upload that document to the repository up here. And step 5 is a categorization step, and that's to help locate things and to group things in later on when we're trying to locate projects and things like that. And this is all of these are optional. We have some different categories. We also have that are predefined, and we also have a tag section where you can put anything you want in here that seems to make sense for this project, and that's free form for you to enter. And then that is it, the 5 steps to enter a new project in here. And then once you hit the save button, it does take you back to the form again in case you have a couple to enter. If you're done, there's a little back arrow at the top. You click that, and it'll take you back to that grid view. And the project that you just entered, this is comes back in reverse order on the modified date for that. So you can see that at the very top. And just want to draw your attention over here to the status. You'll see the pending status and the active status. What the pending status is, we do have a very quick workflow process for this, just kind of a sanity check where we have some line office approvers that will get a notification of this, that this has been entered, and they'll just do a quick review and they can approve that everything looks good on that project. And then once that's done, this status will change from pending to active. And since I entered this project, and also I have some other permissions on this, I can see this project, but other users can't see that until it gets transitioned to that active status. One other thing I wanted to show you on this grid, and Steve mentioned it, and we don't have very good examples on this yet, but one of the main things we're tracking here is the TRL level. And if you go to this drop-down button over on the right, we have some different options, and one of those is this TRL history. And if you click on that, it'll present a table that will show the history over time of that TRL. And since we just started entering this data, we don't have a lot to show you, but this would show up as another table at what level those are at during what stage, what time period.
So another important thing to point out is that even once the project has been approved and it's active in the table, the project owner, whoever that might be, say if it's Dave Novak, you'd have permissions to come into this and click on that down arrow and select edit, and you could edit any part of the entry. You could change the description, you could modify any of the organizations. So we want to encourage people to not, agonize over getting it right the first time, because you can fix it later. you can update things, and in fact we encourage you to update things, especially the TRL level as it. So don't think that once it's improved you'll never get a chance to change it again. You'll have full control over what's in that table entry.
Okay, and then again, all this stuff is being collected with kind of a goal in mind, and that's to gather some metrics on this. So we have another page out here that kind of takes all this data and creates some graphical charts for us to get a feel for what's happening out there on this. And currently we have 4 reports out here. First 2 are based on the technical readiness level, 1 through 9. Right now it doesn't look like we have any 1s or 9s out here. It's just a simple bar chart there. We also have what percentage of them are at the different technical readiness levels. And down below we have a couple other reports, and this is grouping those TRLs into different phases. We have 3 different phases out there: demonstration phase, development phase, and research phase. And that's what these are, same kind of representation, a bar chart and a pie chart.
Oh, did we lose Mike again? Mike? Hey, John?
Yeah, I can't hear him either. Mike, can you hear us? We can't hear you.
Well, this is Dave. Maybe while you're figuring that out, I mean, one point that comes to mind is, wouldn't all of the FY15 ST9 milestones be a project then?
Yes, Dave, that is a logical conclusion, and Ming Ji has given me sort of the list of those, and I intend on contacting the owners of those projects to make sure that those are input here. But we're a part of this pilot is to actually go beyond those official milestones which are in the AOP, because a lot of things at the lower levels are not in AOPs, for example, but we want to know particularly what's the activity in the lower end of the pyramid, especially in the more early stages, stuff coming out of OAR, for example. So we're doing these a solicitation across the agency and targeting things that are still relatively immature, and hope that people submit those types of projects as well, even things that are just sort of prototypes at this point. Again, part of the criticism that Weather Service has received is that there's things going on in the field that are not really well coordinated or even completely unknown, and we're trying to beat the bushes to try to get people to provide information on those things as well. So Ken's taken over again here. We apologize.
Yeah, I made Ken so he can answer questions, round things up here.
Yeah, I think the other aspect that maybe Ken can show is that we don't have all the organizations that are out there, and we don't have all the target systems. So we've allowed anybody essentially to come in here and use the. There's 2 ways to add an organization and add so that in going through this, if there's some system that we don't have, they could add it on the fly. So you don't need to ask us to add those things. You can be self-empowered to do that. So Ken, are you there?
I am here. So yeah, so the default screen that you're going to be on when you're looking at this is the projects perspective, and so it's going to list out the projects themselves. If you ever want to, look at the different organizations or target systems that are available, you can go in here and click on Manage, and click on Manage Organizations or Manage Target Systems. So that's one approach, and then from within this screen, you're then allowed to click on the Add Organization to add those. Obviously, before you did that, you'd want to inspect the organizations themselves to make sure that it's not already there. So you can do that. All of these pages are configured so you can come in here and change the default number of entries. So that's one approach, and you would just click on Add Organization, and it's a fairly simple form. Description of what's expected is on the right, as well as the help menu that Mike Giebler showed you at the beginning. You could reference that as well. So it's going to go in here. You can enter a name, description, acronym, and you could do that. So if you know that there are certain NCEP related organizations that aren't on the system, you could do that. I think Steve has done a fairly good job of going through the organizations already for NCEP, and so hopefully those are already there for you, but if you do find that you need to add additional ones, you can. The other possibility, and so likewise, the other thing is the target systems, so you can go in here and take a look at these, and then add target systems as are needed. The other way that we envision that this is going to come up is that if someone's going through the system and they're adding an entry, so let's go back, you can click on that little picture, the icon in the upper left, that'll take you back to the projects view where I could have gone to manage. And so this is what Mike was demoing. So if you're going through here, adding a new project, and so coming through here, you get to the third step where you're entering in your information, and you discover that, oh, there's actually not, so let's do NCEP. So these are the entries, and perhaps something's been missed there. And so if something has been missed, it's not too late. You're not going to lose the work that you've gone through already to enter in information up till step 3. You can actually go at this point and click on this Add Organization button here. It will then allow you to enter in that new organization, and we'll do a test one. I'll remove it afterwards. And so I can save that, and then it'll take you right back to where you were, and then I can come in here and do a NCEP. So you can see the entries in there. Now, I didn't use the correct syntax, and that it should start with DOC and have the whole hierarchy within it, but that's just for point of illustration. That's how easy it is to add a new organization. We do get email notifications when those are created, because hopefully everyone is on the same page and they're using the right formats and things, but we don't have a draft state for it. We wanted to make sure that it easily allows people to go through and add these new projects. We don't want to hold things up because of an approval process for the organizations or target systems, but we do have the ability to go back in and modify them after the fact if for some reason someone does something that they shouldn't be doing, or makes a mistake. So that's how that works. It's true too of the target systems. So you can click on here, see the different target systems that are there. They're filtered again by clicking in here and using any letter. It's going to search for that. It doesn't necessarily have to start with an A. It's just within the entry itself. So that's searching capabilities. And then again, the same behavior here. If you need to add that target system, just click on it here, add target system, add your test, save it, and it'll take you back to that point in time. So it's pretty straightforward. So are there any questions with regard to that? Hopefully it's intuitive. That's our goal, is to try to keep it simple.
Okay. So that's really all there is to it in a sense, and deliberately so. We've tried to keep this as simple as possible so that if somebody can come to this interface and if they have a reasonable idea of the information they need to enter, they can do it in 5 or 10 minutes at most. And if there's any other things, they can contact us. You might can show the feedback we asked for, report an issue. Yeah.
So you can click on record an issue. That'll take you here, and then this will allow you, if something comes up, you can add. We're using the forums as a means to do this, and so that way you can subscribe to it. If someone responds, or when someone, not if, but when someone responds, you would get an email notification of that. And so that's a helpful way of being able to search through any known issues, and also try to get feedback or provide us with feedback. The other thing I don't think was discussed is that all of these columns here that have these arrows are all sortable, and so meaning that if you click on it once, it's going to be alphabetical. Click on it a second time, it would be reverse alphabetical, and likewise for dates and things like that, those are going to be searchable in that way. There's also what I find oftentimes is you may want to know what's recent, because the table itself, we didn't want to have too many fields there. There are already a lot there, but you can actually sort by the creation date, modified date, and transition date. While they're not displayed on this table, by clicking on any of them, any of the entries, that all of the information pertaining to the project is available through the view option by either clicking on it or clicking on the to the right hand side. There's this drop down button, and because I'm an administrator, I have a lot more options, but as Mike G said, when you enter in an entry, you're going to have the editability on it as well. So, and if you happen to be an approver, you would also have the editability for for your line office.
So we're also, and there's a place you can attach additional documents if you wish, and it works similar to the transition plan. You can browse your local file system and upload things.
Yeah, you can do that one of two ways. The easiest way is actually just clicking on the entry here and say add attachments, and that allows you to add attachments directly to it. The other option is that so you can select files or drag and drop them right into here. The other option is that you could go in and edit the document, the project. So if I wanted to edit this project, I could click on edit, and then you have at the very last step, there's an additional step there called project documents, and so that allows you to come in here and add attachments through this approach.
And you could upload PowerPoint presentations, sort of self-promotion activities again, and this would be more in the area of sharing information with the hopes that potential collaborators could find your project, find it interesting, get more information about it, sort of like an extremely mini web page, if you will. The other thing to mention is that we are going to be implementing some sort of like a ping system, so periodically the project owners would receive an email notification requesting them to check to see if they want to update the TRL level, for example, of their project or any other aspect of the project attributes, so that the data doesn't get stale. We'd have that built in. So there are maybe you can show the 5 statuses for the project.
Oh, sure. Okay, so you can hover over the status and that'll tell you. So it's either you know, in this active state, which is the project has been approved and is active. There's a pending state, meaning, and you've seen a demo of that, that's where the project has not yet been approved. And again, those are only visible to the owner, the person, the creator of the project, if you happen to not be the owner, and then also to the approver for your line office and administrators. So that's the pending state, and we didn't demonstrate the workflow, but there's a whole workflow process associated with this as well that these projects go through. And then there's a completed, which is the project you know, has ended after a successful completion, and then terminated is that they ended it before it was completed, and then lastly dormant, and the dormant project is something where, you know, the owner hasn't responded to acknowledge that last ping, and those are the different states that are supported.
Okay. Thanks, Ken. So any questions from our NCEP representatives on the call, or any further questions, I guess?
Yeah, this is Bob at AWC. I'm wondering who has authorization to make these entries. Maybe you said that and I missed it, but are there people designated from each center that would control this?
That's totally up to the organization. So, Bob, if you empower you know, your folks who are actually managing the projects that AWC has to do it, then they are it. If you wanted to have your deputy director do all of that, you could delegate it to the deputy director, and they could enter in, you know, all 12 projects, whatever number you had. It's totally up to you.
Okay, thanks. The other question I had was, when you have multiple organizations working on the same project, obviously you have the potential to have duplicate entries. Is that going to be a problem, or will the system sort itself out?
We will adjudicate those if and when it occurs. You know, part of the question of project ownership is obviously there's some grayness in it, and there might be some need for offline discussion about who actually is, you know, entering the project in. But we'll deal with that as it comes. I mean, we just ask people to use their best judgment. We'll see if there are things that look reasonably similar that we need to address.
Okay, thank you very much.
You're welcome, and please, you know, we're really looking forward to, you know, for NCEP to step up to this because I know there's such a powerhouse in the not in just Weather Service, the agency, for this effort. So we really think we can shine with the contributions from all the different centers here, which are going to be considerable. So don't be shy, and don't, like I said, the more the merrier at this point, because the more stuff we get, the better we'll be informed about how to tweak things and make it better. But I guarantee we're going to put smiles on the face of Kathy Sullivan and Rick Spinrad, because they've been really pushing hard and to get us to move forward in this area.
Well, you know, thanks for the leadership on pulling this together. It looks like, you know, a really good solid first step, so thank you.
You're welcome. Other questions? Hearing none, I think we will call it a good call, and I appreciate your support and participation, and don't hesitate to contact me or anyone else in the VLab staff if you have questions. We'll be more than happy to answer those and try to get you on your way. And please, as well, share what you've learned with your other NCEP colleagues. John, this is being recorded, right?
That's correct, and I'll certainly make it available to anyone who would like to take a look.
So we'll make sure that Dennis Staley has the link to the recording so that it can be shared to other folks in NCEP. All right. Very good. Thank you, everyone. Signing off.
Thanks. Mike, were you able to rejoin us at some point? Audio?
Yeah, I did. I don't know what happened. It just completely dropped. I didn't realize you couldn't hear me till I got a dial tone. It just.
So I guess
don't know if it's something with the phone system here with my phone service. I don't know.
Yeah. Because I was going to suggest if we weren't able to actually talk now to have you maybe like dial back in and see if just a better line would have helped. But it sounds like you already did to restore.
Yeah, I just
connection.
Yeah, I was able to just dial right back in and I could start hearing people again.
Right. See anything
I
at
don't
your
know.
end? Something go red, or I don't know, some indication that you were no longer connected from an audio. From the audio side of it.
I couldn't see, but I wonder if I had my, that little panel expanded, if I could have seen something maybe. I don't know.
Fine. Up at the top right, I've got a little green circle with a phone in the middle, and I'm assuming that if I suddenly lost a connection, it would go red or something, but, who knows, I guess. Alrighty. Well, that was definitely not so good thing.
Yeah, I don't like that. It sucks. I wonder if I should try the, my USB into the, instead of dial phone, except that we always get the feedback when I do that echo when I do that. So that's not a good solution either. Shoot.
At the very least, next time we do this, which I think is tomorrow, we can do a sound check early on.
Okay.
And then maybe, just to be, ready for it, we'll have, like your chat window could be open or something. And
yeah. Okay.
Can't hear you all of a sudden. We can, send you another chat message or something. And
okay. Yeah, I didn't. Yeah, that didn't. I did hear some things on my speaker, but I thought it was the, people coming in and out. You get the little beep, but I think it might have been my chat window kept trying to tell me something.
Oh yeah, maybe. Yeah, we were.
Yeah.
You lose the audio, of course. We can't even tell you that you've lost the audio. So
right, I know. Okay.
Alrighty. Well, okay. So
I have no idea what
the real solution is. All right.
Yeah, I don't
well,
know.
we'll hope it's a one-time event and won't replicate itself next time around.
Well, yeah, I don't know.
Ready.
It makes me nervous because I remember we had a team meeting a couple weeks ago, and I got dropped off the call like 3 times.
Okay.
So I don't know what's going on. I don't know if I need to contact my phone company, maybe. I don't know. That's weird.
Something like that. I mean, what do you say? Well, I got dropped a few times.
Yeah. I don't.
Well, we'll be ready next time, and if we lose you, we'll probably just transition right over to Ken and let him.
Okay. Okay. Yeah, I'm just nervous that since I had that issue with the team meeting a couple weeks ago that it's not isolated to today. I mean, but then there have been others where I've had no problems, so it's just weird. I don't know.
Exactly. This is really the first time I've ever really experienced this one, so.
Yeah. Okay.
Do what we can next time. All right.
Okay.
Well.
All right.
Appreciate it.
Okay.
Talk to you later.
All right. Talk to you later. Bye.
Bye.